Hey YouTubers, what's up? Yours truly. Back to post a quick video here. Not really showing any new stuff. I posted a video a few hours ago that kind of did that. But this is actually a video in response to a number of questions that I've gotten over the past year and a half that I've been posting videos here on YouTube. Just some things that have popped up regularly, and I thought any excuse to talk about music and music collection and my collection, I just want to jump on it. So just going to kind of go through some of these and answer those questions. One of the most common questions obviously has been how many records in your collection, how much stuff do you have. So just by sheer numbers, right now I have about 3,125 vinyl records. I have 1,221 CDs, 1,227 cassettes, and only about 100 8-tracks. So I'm still kind of working on that one. So those are just kind of, let's say, just the numbers. The other question is, why do I collect all three formats? I think for the same reason why a lot of people don't like all four formats, is because there's something different about them. There's a certain joy I get from playing cassettes that I don't get from playing LPs and vice versa. Also keeping in mind that, kind of with my age, I'm in my mid-upper 30s, it's kind of like I grew up where I actually experienced 8-tracks, I experienced vinyl records, I experienced cassettes, I experienced CDs. So throughout the course of my lifetime, all three of those were significant formats at a time. So there's just certain pleasure that I've, just kind of built in that I get out of all of those. So I like to collect all four. Where do I get my record sleeves? Oddly enough, that's probably been the most common question that I've gotten on a lot of my different videos. I get mine from a local store about 2 hours away, but if you don't have the access to that, there's a really good store online, www.bagsunlimited.com. Again, bagsunlimited.com. Great store, a lot of accessories for any type of collector. They have tons of stuff for 12-inch records, 45s, even some stuff for 18-inch records. If you collect cassettes, CDs, comic books, stamps, coins, anything you collect, they have a ton of stuff that you can get off of that site. So I get my sleeves from a local store, but all of my little tabs for my records and CDs and 45s and everything, my 45 sleeves, I get all of those from Bags Unlimited. Oh, one other thing I'll say about that, let me just pull something out here as an example. We'll do Weezer. One thing I like to do too is I recommend when you start buying sleeves, buy them all the same size, no matter which ones you choose to go with. I prefer the fitted, tighter sleeves. I think it makes my collection look neater, and the ends don't pop out when you try to put them into the shelves. There's so much over here, and then you can't read the sides that well. But for me, I like the fitted sleeves. So whatever sleeves you do buy, I recommend keep them all the same size. It keeps your collection looking neater and cleaner, in my opinion. What's the next question? Oh, where do I get most of my vinyl from? That was a big question. And it was kind of interesting, too, because Mike and Collector of Music, who Collector's kind of a new person in our vinyl community here, has posted his first couple of videos, which were absolutely awesome. I can't wait to see more from him. I just want to kind of say, welcome to the vinyl community here on YouTube. They kind of shared in their last couple of videos kind of where they get their vinyl and what's important to them with that, which is really interesting, too, because I think the same way we're all anal and crazy about how we arrange our collections and all this stuff, it was kind of cool they brought that up, because it also shows how anal and crazy we are with even how we bring records in, where we get them from, which I thought was kind of neat. And, Dan and I had a little discussion a little while ago, kind of back and forth online, and we both kind of came to the conclusion that, realistically, we're nothing more than organized hoarders, is all that we are. So we get all these records in, we can't let go of them for anything, and, and hoarding is kind of a psychological condition that requires psychiatric help, so that just shows where we are as collectors. But anyway, Mike and Collector were saying they get all of their vinyl through digging. They don't like the idea of going on the internet and buying off of eBay and stuff like that, because it kind of takes away from that satisfaction of that digging process, which I completely understand. I'm kind of this. I guess I agree with some of that, in terms of I'm a huge person that likes to dig as well. Kind of an example of that, I travel quite a bit, and I can literally say over the past 3 years, whether business or for pleasure, whenever I travel or my wife travels with me, we have never once left town without researching and finding out where all the independent record stores are in the towns that we're going to, or even the towns that we're going through. And we always allocate time to dig every single time we leave town. And we do that a number of times, quite a number of times every year. There's also a local store here that I go to 3 to 4 times a week, as well as the Salvation Armies and 2 not thrift stores, but flea markets. 30 minutes away, there's another small store that I go to about 3 times a week, as well as the Salvation Armies and Goodwills there. 2 bigger independent record stores that I go to about 3 to 4 times a week. So I definitely put a lot of time and effort and mileage into digging. But I also, kind of unlike Mike and Collector, I also do a lot with eBay now as well. And one of my main reasons why was about 2 years ago when I really started getting onto eBay. I was building my collection, and I kind of really got what I considered kind of a good chunk of the core in my collection. You know, I had my Boston LPs, my Styx collection. I had all my Led Zeppelin, my Cars and my Heartbeat City and my Eagles. You know, just kind of the core stuff that I think every collection should have, that you find in almost any record store that you go to. But then once I got to that point, I was actually buying a Pantera Far Beyond Driven off of eBay, original issue, the band cover. And it was interesting because when I won it, I realized this is from one of those stores that I go to a lot, and that's about 2 hours away. And then I was looking at all the other items that they were selling, and they had just, some incredible records that they had for sale in there. And I was thinking, I've been hitting this store faithfully for 3 years now. I have never seen these type of records ever out there on the shelves. And I think really what it comes down to, and a lot of independent stores have kind of had to do this for survival, is they get in this selection of records that they buy off a collector, and then they take those records and say, these are very nice copies that go into the dollar bin. This is a $5 record, this is a $20 record, this might be a $30 record. But then those true gems that they get out of that collection, they all seem to have this little back room now that is strictly where they do all their eBay sales. So I guess for me, I've just kind of come to the conclusion that in order for me to get a lot of gems that come through these record stores, especially the ones I visit on a regular basis, I have to go to eBay, because that's where they're taking these records to get maximum dollar so that they can keep their doors open. So that's kind of one of my reasons behind doing the eBay and the digging thing, kind of how they're equally important to me. Not to mention, eBay gives me a place to dig at midnight when I can't actually get up and go to the local store, which I do a lot. So that's kind of where I get my vinyl. As well as, I should mention, Craigslist is another very good place. Not so much, I don't go look for ads on Craigslist, but I'll put an ad on there. Contact me if you have records that you want to sell. I'll come by and take a look at them. And I've picked up some of my Beatles collection and a few other things that way too. So let's see, where are we at on time? Okay. Where do I get my record shelves? I've been asked that a lot. My shelves, the bigger shelves back here, came from a store that gentleman passed away. Family decided to close the store, so they kind of had an auction and sold off a bunch of their stuff. So I got a ton of records from them that day, as well as those shelves. The smaller shelves I got was actually from that small store about 30 minutes away that I mentioned. You know, literally, I just went in and I was shopping around and saw the shelves, and I thought, those would fit perfectly in my music room. I just went up and asked the guy. You know, they weren't for sale, they weren't whatever. So keep that in mind too. If you guys are visiting and hitting stores, make sure you just ask the owners, are you willing to sell this shelf or that shelf, or do you have any in back or in your basement that you're just not using that you'll sell? You'll be surprised at what they come up with. Also, IKEA, if you want something a little, I guess, nicer for lack of better terms, IKEA has a couple of shelves that fit the vinyl specs very well. Matter of fact, if you go to 821 Tone's channel and look at his music room tour video, he has a very nice IKEA shelf that'll give you an idea about what it looks like. There's a few how-to videos here on YouTube of how to make them. And the last option, I would say, cabinet shops. Go to a cabinet maker. You know, they're used to making these more complex type things for cabinets in homes. You come in there and say, I need you to make a box. You know, really that simple. You know, they can make some pretty nice cabinets or vinyl cabinets for a very good price. So that's my suggestion on that. Let's see, check time again. We're doing pretty good, so I can answer a couple more of these. How important is condition of my records? That was one that I was asked, you know, do I buy things that are really rough? I do pay close attention to my records because I like the idea of things that come into my collection are going to be here for quite some time. So I don't want to bring in things that are really not that useful outside of just having them. So I do pay a lot of attention to the condition of the records that I bring in. I'm a little bit more picky now, too, than I was in the beginning. Every now and then I will get something if I'm I'll have this, get a replacement copy later. You know, I'll do that as well. One of the big questions I forgot. Why/how do I keep some of my vinyl records sealed? You know, about 101 of my records are sealed at this point in time. And there's a couple of different reasons. Number one, it's just kind of like the same reason why I will say, how come some records it's okay to have a reissue, some records we cannot rest until we get the original issue. Sometimes it's just a feeling about a record of whether I want to keep it sealed or not. But the second reason, too, is I always think about my collection going beyond just me enjoying it now. In other words, like my dad passed away a while back. Now, what if he was a big vinyl collector? And what if when he passed away, he passed his collection on to me, and inside his collection he had a sealed copy of all of the Led Zeppelin studio albums? I mean, like, how cool, huge would that have been for me to receive something like that if something like that would have happened? I kind of think beyond my collection into the future, I guess, kind of the same way. You know, if my kids end up being music lovers, which they will, you know, what does that mean to them 30, 40, 50 years from now when Dad passes on his collection and they have a mint sealed Nirvana collection, you know, from front to back? I mean, that's just huge. So there's a piece of me that kind of keeps that inside as well, that determines whether I buy some records or whether I keep some sealed and so forth. So make sure I don't go over time here. Let's see. The last question I'll go over, what should I start collecting? That's been a very common question I've got from a lot of people that I think have been inspired by a lot of the videos that we've been sharing here on YouTube who want to start record collecting. My biggest piece of advice with that, go with whatever makes you happy. I don't think there should be any rule on, well, you start with the dollar bins first and you get those core records I mentioned, or you start by getting the rare stuff and, you know, then go from there. I just think it is, whatever you do, when you walk into the room where your collection is, whatever puts a smile on your face, makes you excited about it, makes you happy, you know, all of that stuff, that is how you start your collection. And maybe looking at a few different videos here on YouTube from different collectors and taking the pieces that really fit into that for you, I think is the biggest thing. Like for me, for example, one of the biggest things about my collection keeping me happy beyond just what I have is the way that it's set up. And what I mean by that is it makes me very uncomfortable, and I would not be very happy with my collection if I have to start storing things away. If I have to start putting cassettes or LPs in my closet or storing them in boxes where I have to dig through to find certain things, that is something that really keeps me very excited about my collection, is making sure that every single piece that I have is accessible. I can grab it, I can see it, I know what I have without having to dig underneath or through anything. So again, that's just kind of my piece of advice there, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think.